Welcome back to another episode of TikTok Famous Podcast. Today I have on the show Ashley Huffman Clark with over 2 million followers, known on TikTok as Trashley Anonymous. But there is no trash on this podcast today, ladies and gentlemen, so stay with us.
You're listening to the TikTok Famous Podcast, where viral fame meets raw reality. Join your host, Meredith Willits, as she dives deep with your favorite creators to uncover the real stories behind the scroll, the highs, the lows, the algorithm chaos, and everything in between. This is not your average interview. This is the TikTok Famous Podcast.
Ashley, my Ohio sister. I'm from Cleveland.
Are you? Oh, well,
Yes.
I am from Columbus, but I moved to a little village called Commercial Point. So it's like only 100 people here. It seems.
Oh
like.
my gosh, that's small. That's way too small for me.
Oh yeah, I know. Me too.
Well, I have to say, so I'm probably 3/4 through your first book. I went online, I went on Amazon and just put in your name, and this is the first one that popped up, and I did just hit clicked and purchased. So I see that you have a third book coming out. So congratulations.
Out.
It's already out.
Yeah, I'm working on my fourth one. So
Holy crap.
I know. The third one is more of like a short story. I've always wanted to do like a. Can I say? Is there like certain things like okay? I've always.
I mean, we're on Facebook Live, so I think the only thing that people ever get like up in a roar about is like talking about DRUGSs or doing DRUGSs, but everything else, I think we're kind of okay.
Okay, but I've always wanted to do like a hooker magazine kind of thing, and I was just trying to fill it out for my third. That's basically what the third one is. It's more of like a magazine style, short story kind of vibe. But my fourth one is my tweaker tales that I'm working on. So
okay, so for those of you that are new to Ashley, grew up in Ohio. Mom passed away when you were very little, didn't even know that your mom passed away. Is that kind of the vibe?
Yeah, so my mom passed away when I was 18 months old. So I've always known like my grandma and grandpa as my mom and dad. And my biological dad is still here. I'm actually friends with him on Facebook, but I've only seen him 4 times. Yep. Only seen him 4 times, maybe talked to him, maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 times. So I've always said that he's, passed away right along with my mom. And it wasn't until I was about 7, 8 years old, my aunt had came over because she lived right behind us when we lived at Buckeye Lake Music Center. So she came down and I don't know, I guess she was in whatever moods or something. And she heard me call, my mom. And she's like, that's not your mom. Your mom passed away when, you was a baby, and your dad's still here. He doesn't want anything to do with you. That's your grandma and grandpa. Stop calling them mom and dad. And I literally ran in the house crying because I'm like, what is she even talking about? And that's when my grandma sat me down and was like, yeah, this is what happened. And I've always seen a picture of my mom that she had, hanging up. But I just always thought of like, that's, my aunt's sister. So I thought it was, my aunt. Like nobody told me otherwise until that incident. So yeah, that was the first.
Which, by the way, if you start lagging with Wi-Fi, don't hang up whatever you do.
Okay.
Just keep rolling with it because it's recording on both ends.
Okay.
Well, I think I just started to lag for a second. So I'm just saying, like, sometimes it happens and just like power through and just keep going.
Gotcha.
As I read through your book, and I could literally sit on this podcast with you for about, 10 hours. Thank you so much for agreeing to do it. Your honesty on social media, and I think that you're so honest that people call you a liar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because like you went, okay, So you used to be a hooker,
Mhm.
starting very, very young. Then you got into drugs very, very, very young.
Mhm.
You were evading the cops for like ever and had multiple charges and had multiple warrants out for your arrest. You name it, you have done it. Like you are literally the after school special. However, you've also been honest about all of it. And then you've now also been honest about all of like it's wild to me how raw you were because you were on Suboxone to get off of drugs. And you literally detailed your every single day struggle with getting off of the Suboxone. And you were getting shit for it. Like I was watching this and
I still get shit for it. Like I initially started doing TikTok videos when I was actually on methadone and I was transitioning to Suboxone, and I was going through the worst precipitated withdrawals because I literally had just taken, I think I was on like 90 milligrams or 95 milligrams of methadone. I took it at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and then my brilliant idea, thought that, oh, I'll just take a whole 8 milligram strip at 3 p.m. And that's what I did. And I had to go to work that evening. And those precipitated withdrawals kicked in like no other. I thought I was dying. It was horrendous. I'd never felt anything like that before. So then it only lasted for maybe 24, maybe like 36 hours. And then, I was starting to, get on the other side of it. So I started making TikTok videos. And then I had seen a lot of younger girls who were in the same industry as I was that were glamorizing that lifestyle. And mind
being
you,
on methadone or being on the Suboxone?
no, on being a
Regular
sex,
drugs.
no, being
Oh,
a
being
sex.
a sex worker. Okay.
That's that's why I decided to, share my story. And um, you know, I think what it is, a lot of people who watch me has never met anybody who has ever went through what I went through, and especially at
Heck
a young
yeah.
age. And so they just automatically assume like, oh, she's lying, she's this, and I get it. I understand, it's pretty wild to, you know, watch somebody and they have all these crazy stories that are literally crazy. And, they do, second guess themselves like, is she telling the truth, But
You know what? While you're talking, I just want to interrupt. What I'm seeing in my head, I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm psychic. But what I'm seeing in my head is this when you're talking about people that don't believe you, the vision that I'm getting is the judgment of people that do what you did don't get to have a nice life. And so that is what that energy is coming from is like, no, because I've been taught that when you do bad things, then you get punished. And there's no way that you're having a good life and living in a nice community if you did those bad things, because then my brain will explode. And the way that I see the world is not working out the way I think it should. And it doesn't pass the you're supposed to be punished litmus test. Does that make sense? Because like that's how I'm seeing it from their eyes.
yeah, I talked about this a lot of times too. Like even to this day, like I have a lot of guilt because I was blessed with this platform. And I was blessed with a partner who also went through what I went through. So she understands, and she, you know, is a really hard worker. She works full time, and she's amazing. Um, and I've also stated too, if it wasn't for me having this platform, I would still get to where I'm at, but it would have taken a hell of a lot longer to get to where I'm at. And I still talk to, a couple girls who's still out there that, I knew, back then, and they're still out there, or they would get off the streets and get clean and sober, then they'll go right back. There's this one girl who I met a few years ago, and she was so inspiring to me, and so inspiring to a lot of other, working girls, and she's right back out there, and it is a lot of guilt because a lot of girls where I come from don't get this opportunity. They're either still
Do
on
you
the
think? Do you think that you started? I mean, the vision I cannot get out of my head is the experience that you had at 12 years old. You can't. First of all, you can't make that shit up.
right.
Just so we're all on the same page.
Yes.
None of that can be in someone's imagination what happened to you. And this is in the it's my PUSSY, I'll do what I want. So if you're looking to see what I'm talking about, it's in this book. It's on Amazon. You can't make it up. Do you think that moment, you know how like like your kids growing up and they're like, okay, my mom's a teacher, my dad works on the railroad. And so you see those lines of, okay, these people make money and this is the way they make the money. And so these are opportunities for me also to make money. And then maybe they get introduced to aunts and uncles, or like the school introduces them to ways to make money. Okay. So let's just start there. That's how normal situations happen in the real world. But you were shown a way to make money in this very weird, horrible, traumatic experience. Do you think that was like, okay, this is a way to make money? Or do you think that also with that was, and I don't really see other ways to make money. No one else is like showing me like, and you can go to college or you can go to beauty school. Or did you have those things also shown to you and you were like, screw it, this is easier?
So my grandpa was the one who always pushed for an education. He's like, I don't care what you do with, your life, just always go to college, get a degree. And I was a really good student. I always got straight A's, maybe a couple B's here and there. Like and I would also get paid for, being a good student. Every, A, I would get $20, a B, I would get $10. So that incident when I was 12, honestly, I had no idea where or how that even came about in my mind, my brilliant mind, to even want to meet somebody who I just talked to on the internet. We just got a computer, we got the internet, and he was from New York and he was like in his early 20s. I can't remember how old, but he wanted to meet at, a movie theater. And I remember telling my grandma, okay, well, I'm meeting a friend and we're just going to go watch a movie. And she's like, okay. My grandmother was very, and she should have been very protective. Like, who are you meeting? I need to meet them. I need to meet their parents. So she just, came with me, literally walked with me throughout the mall because the movie theater was inside the mall. And I thought she was about to, leave because I saw him standing there with a bouquet of flowers. Like, why would you? And oh my God, by the way.
Okay, now he's 20s, you're 12. And you have told him that you are 12 and he still wants to meet you. And he's driven his ass all the way from New York to the Columbus, Ohio area. Just so we're all on the same page here.
Now, I initially did tell him I was 18. So I told him I was 18. We talked for a couple weeks. And right before we were, going to meet, I felt bad. I'm like, okay, well, I need to tell you something. I'm not really 18. I'm 12. And he was more okay with the fact that I was 12 and 18, which, and I don't, and this is never okay, but back then in my family, that was normal. Like my mom, she got married, I think at 16, and her husband was, in his like late 20s. My aunt, she, was young and her partners were like older, like a lot older. So I stayed with my grandma and my grandpa, so I always thought that was normal. And I did not know that was not normal until probably my late teens, because that's what I was, used to. So that incident, like when I met him at the movies, it was supposed to just strictly be just watching the movie. And like we didn't have like no discussion beforehand, like we were going to do this or that, and he
Yeah.
was pay me this or that. Nothing. That just came about. Like I don't even know how, but my grandmother went into the movie theater with us, and she sat beside, like literally beside me. So he went to the bathroom a couple minutes later. I'm like, okay, I don't feel good. I got to go to the bathroom. She's like, oh, you're not tricking me. So she literally got up and, walked me to the
He
bathroom. And
followed you to the bathroom thinking
well,
that that was going to be enough.
well, he went to the bathroom first, and he told
Yeah.
me, he whispered, go ahead and, meet me in the bathroom. And my 12-year-old mind's like, oh, okay, I'll do that. So I did. And my grandmother waited outside of the bathroom, entrance. And that was a quick, I don't know what I can, say on here, but it was a quick $20. And back then, $20 was a lot, a lot of money. So that was my very first experience of, that kind of situation.
Yeah.
So when I ended up meeting my son's father at 14, and that, incident when I was a virgin, when he came over, and when he left, I wasn't. It was not willingly, by the way. And my aunt just blew it off. So I just had in my mind, like, okay, well, I remember the incident when I was 12. I made, a quick $20, barely doing anything. So I'm just going to go ahead and do what I have to do and make a lot of money and get away from this family. Because there was a lot of things that, led up to,
There's a lot of abuse, sexual abuse throughout your entire childhood with many different people. But what's so weird about it is that you're so compartmentalized, because although one might look at you and go, oh, she has low self-worth and allows these things to happen, there's also the other part of you that like had a lot of self-worth and like knew who you were and didn't take shit. Like it was like, this is a job and this over here is who I really am as a person. Like it was two separate brains, two separate, like you went into like worker mode and you were doing 10 tricks a day. Is that
10
or more?
maybe even more during like when I started doing the tricks, I was completely sober. Like I wasn't doing anything besides weed. Am I allowed to say that? I don't know if I am, but okay. But other than that, like I was completely sober. So it wasn't until I started experimenting with pills, that's when, I guess it was just more, because I needed more. I needed more money for,
Yeah, you were just chasing the pills at that point. I mean, you were just chasing. And I mean, you had like, that's the thing is like, do you ever watch movies and you're like, if that person could just use all these skills for good, they'd be a millionaire? That is literally you. I mean, you were running like a whole ass operation sex worker, a whole ass drug ring operation. Like you were able to escape places that like people are still trying to escape from, like weekly. Like you were escaping people's houses and you were escaping prisons and you.
Well, no, I still can't. There's so many incidents where I would go to these men's houses, and we would, discuss on a price. I literally would wait until they drop their pants, because they would always give me the money first. Always give me the money, and drop their pants, and I would take off running. I had that happen, quite a few times. With my, pills and everything, I was in nursing school at the time, and that didn't last long because obviously I took the doctor's DEA number, and back then you can call in your own, not your own. No, you cannot do that, but you can call in, other people's prescription if you're certified to do so. And I had in my mind that I was, because they taught us how to do it. So I was doing it for, other people, and then I started doing it for myself. And I got away. Well, I thought I got away with it for a long time, but it wasn't that. They were literally building, you know, building cases after cases in numerous counties. And my first time ever getting arrested, I was freshly 18 and I was scared shitless. I didn't know what to expect. And then I got out, had an ankle monitor on. I kept in and out of jail, like 3 months here, get out for a month. Had to violate because I was an addict. I was still doing doing the most. And by the time I got sentenced to my mandatory 7 years, I had 13 months of jail time or 14 months of jail time credit. Then a little under 5 in prison. And the last year I had to do at the halfway house. And then they ended up screwing up and letting me go after 4 months. And I wasn't going to tell them I was supposed to be there for a year, so I left. And the cycle just, even when I was in the halfway house, it continued on. Even I was trying to do my best, during that month, stay away from the pills, stay away from, the sex work. The sex work was the biggest addiction of them all,
Really?
I started.
Why is that? Why do you think that is?
Because of, I think because with my family, I was born into like total chaos. So there was always something going on. And I love that. I feel like I thrive more when I have things going on, when I have like, chaos surrounding me. So and even till this day, I feel like.
Do you think that TikTok like helps? Because like TikTok helps me to learn shit that I would never learn about because I'm not in therapy 24/7. Like it's like if you are like comfortable with abusive people or if you are comfortable with chaos, that's a trauma response because you are used to like are you learning shit on social media that you would have never learned? Because I sure as heck do. Like
Yeah,
I totally am like, oh, trauma response.
yeah, I never knew anything about like trauma bonding. I didn't know, literally, like before social media, I didn't know a hell of a lot of things, and
Yeah.
it really made me take a step back and like think like, well, maybe this is why I am the way I am. Like when I first started doing social media, I was so snappy. I was so, always on edge. Every time if somebody would say something to me, I always thought that they had
Defensive.
it out. Yeah,
You're
very,
defensive. Like,
very
same.
defensive.
Yeah.
And, it was all because of, everything that I've been through. And I never, honestly, I don't know why, but I just never put two and two together, and then
Why would we? I like you think I
right.
call it programming. Like we're programmed to experience the world a certain way, and then we like use the tools that we have gathered to experience the world and stay safe, right? Like there's so many times that you were like severely put in danger mentally, emotionally, physically, sexually. And so you go, okay, this is my toolbox. And so I'm going to continue to fight the world the only way I know how to fight the world because it's worked so far. And
Yeah.
so every time you experience a human being, you're like, okay, do I have my toolbox? I got my toolbox. All right, let's go to battle. Someone comes at me. I have to get out my battle axe and start swinging. Like that's normal behavior until we learn what we're doing. Like,
yeah. And I had to learn how to, I'm still struggling to, even to this day, learning how to take, compliments or learning how to take criticism, like not always being like on edge, with every little thing. And it's even harder now that I'm, completely sober. So I don't have, like it's definitely
no crutches. Are you, so you don't drink either?
No.
Same.
Not anymore. Yeah. I did drink. I actually went to an AA meeting that I facilitated.
Get out.
Workhouse. And it was a couple years ago. And the girls there, like they enjoyed that meeting. They even said that, like this was like the funnest, because I guess like the ladies that facilitated it were not colorful, I guess. They didn't have a background like I had, and so
Colorful.
yeah, that's all I can say. My turn.
That's awesome.
To tell the judge that. So my colorful background, I guess just drew them in. And once people saw that I was there facilitating the AA meeting, the jail kept getting phone calls because, back then I did drink. Like I drink, and when I say drinking, like once in a blue moon, literally, maybe 2 or 3 drinks a year, not like a lot. So because of that, and they literally sent them like screenshots of me drinking and stuff. Like I had one of the deputies reach out to me and tell me like, well, you can't facilitate the AA anymore because of this reason. And I get it. I understood, but I was pissed. I'm like, well, that's messed up. Like these girls really enjoyed me, being there. And, I feel like somebody's always, watching and always trying to sabotage every little thing that I do on here. So I've learned my lesson on just keeping the majority of the things to myself and not say too much anymore.
I don't know like what your spiritual practices are. But there's a part of me, because of my own experience and talking to others in many different capacities, that I look at the life that I've led or others have led and I go, okay, this person was able to shoulder and is a very strong human being, very strong spirit, as we all are, and they live this life in all of these different crazy ways because then their higher self, their spiritual self, whatever, knew that then they would do something with it. They wouldn't just like have it and then it goes nowhere. Like you had this experience. Like when I go back and I'm reading your beginnings, knowing you now, at least in a a very whatever, just watching you sort of way, I can't help but as I read it. Now, if I were to read this without knowing you online, it might be different, but knowing you online and then reading it, okay? Every single time I'm reading this craziness in here, I'm like, but it's like these crazy ass people. You should have been killed 1,000 times. Let's just put it that way. All right. You should not be here. You were saved by the grace of God, period. Okay. But it's like every story that I read, I'm watching it going, she used this. She uses this now. She survived this. Like, I don't know how to explain it outside of, it was like this master plan that should have never happened. You should have never survived it. But now you're here and you're doing something with it that a million other women would not have done, would not have shared, would not have written about, would not have talked about, would not. And so like by way of all the things that you went through, you are able to then be a teacher. Does any of what I just said make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I told my wife, I remember it was like in 2019, 2020. I told her, and I wrote this in my book that I was, sitting on the bed and I told her, like, I feel like something greater is going to happen. Like, I don't know what it is, but at the time we were living in this, this house that was literally right smack dab in the hood, and, can't go outside for 5 seconds without, something happening. And, I had just filed for custody back of my kids, and I told her, I'm like, I feel like there's something that is going to happen. I don't know what it is, but a lot of people are going to know who I am, and it's going to be like a good thing. And I feel like, and I have talked about it too, that I feel like I have lived so many different lives in one lifetime. It's just so crazy. Like, I when I was working the streets, I was almost 400 pounds walking them streets, and I look like a completely different person now. You know, I went to prison twice. I have been arrested so many times, and I did put myself in all of these crazy, demented, vile situations that I shouldn't have made it out. And I still think, like, did I, and I know this sounds crazy. I know people think I'm crazy anyway, so it's fine. But I think to myself, like, did I really make it out? Like, maybe this is like a different, like, timeline for me. Maybe I didn't make it out then, and this is like a new, you know, life for me, like a new, you know, life, jumping like timelines and stuff. I say that to my mom all the time. She's like, "You're crazy." I am. I'm certifiable, but like you know,
but you're not like, but like trying to wrap your brain about being with those two guys, and this is in it's my P. I'll do what I want. You're in a, you know, an alley with two guys, and they're violently taking advantage of you, violently. And you describe it, and they have a gun. And I'm like, how is she going to make it out of this? I know you do, because I know the end of the book.
Right.
I'm talking to her on a podcast. So but like I said, if I just bought this off the shelf, there's no way outside of the fact that you wrote it that you survived that.
Yeah.
What did that feel like in 2019 when all of a sudden you were like, something big is coming? And I don't, like, how did that, like, was it a dream? Did you wake up? Was it just like light? Did it feel just like hope? What is, because like this is a very real thing. And this exact thing happened to me in like 2008. I remember standing in the kitchen and I looked up at the ceiling and I started crying. And I think I had my third kid at that time. And I just looked up and I'm like, this cannot be all I'm meant to be as a mom. And I'm like, this cannot be it for me, is just being a mom and a wife for the rest of my life. And from that moment, everything in my life changed.
Yeah.
Was that kind of thing for you where you were just like, I just know something's happening?
It wasn't a dream. I don't know what it was. Like, I literally, at the time I was working third shift at the hotel. So I'd wake up about 3:30, and, you know, my wife, she, you know, worked during the day. So she would already be up. And I remember just waking up, and there was just something that told me at the time, I haven't heard from like my oldest son. And at the time, like, I would talk to him every now and then. You know, once I got out of prison in 2018, I would talk to him, you know, sporadically, like a month here, wait for a couple months and talk to him again. Well, I haven't heard from him in like probably 3 or 4 months. And I'm like, man, there's something, I don't know what it is. And I ended up Googling him and, you know, saw that he was in jail. And I don't know what it was, but maybe it was just something that literally was just like on my shoulders that just said, like, this is like the beginning of something greater that's going to happen. And I know that's crazy because of like what he was in jail for, you know, but I don't know. It's just like a
knowing.
I don't know. It's like a sixth sense, like something was going to happen. And then that's when, you know, I started doing, you know, TikToks. I started, you know, it got to the point to where I was able to, you know, quit my job. And I remember, like, I literally changed my way of thinking and changed how I like talked. Like, I remember when I was out there in the streets, I would always say, you know, because I always heard from other people, you know, you're a piece of shit. You're not going to do anything. This is you. This is your life. This is all you're going to, you know, ever amount to. And so I kept telling myself that, and I literally manifested that, you know, for myself. So from, you know, 2019 or 2020, whenever it was, like, I remember just changing how I talked about myself. And I remember, you know, saying, I'm going to stop thinking that. And I'm going to, you know, change the direction of, you know, I'm going to do, you know, something better. I'm going to do something greater with my life. I don't know what it is yet, but it's going to be something. And then, you know, me telling my story on, you know, TikTok, it took off because people like to see chaos. People like to, hear about
I think
crazy.
different lives though. Like people don't have the experience with these situations, and it's like, tell me more, because
Yeah.
I drive the same route to work every day for 30 years. I do the same thing every day, and so like you're like, like your own reality TV show. It's like, oh, tell me all the
Tell me
things that
more.
you.
I'm intrigued. I want to know what else,
Yeah.
what else happens. Like, yeah. And it I still have to pinch myself even to this day, because like I'm very, very blessed. And, and I've had said so many times that girls like me don't get this opportunity. Like it's literally one in a million. And I would never, ever in a million years, ever take advantage of it. I will always, there's been a couple times where I did get, a little big headed, but I had to, you know, um, come down off of my high horse and, literally think back to like where I started and how, like where I came from. And I would never take advantage of, my platform. And, the reason why I even started this was because I want to share with like the younger generation that, the main reason of me even telling my stories, because all these younger girls were glamorizing that lifestyle, and that's not how it is for the majority of the people. It may I started out online and ended up right there, on the streets. And even after you stop, you're going to have some kind of trauma that is, connected with it. And I didn't even know that. Like once I stopped, I thought I was okay. But then the night terrors came, my anxiety came. Even to this day, like I have a really hard time going anywhere, by myself. And, it's definitely, that's more of a reality than, getting into that industry and making millions, like that right there comes a dime a dozen, and this, I just never, I always want women to know that there's better out there. There's a better life. There's better, life on this side of the tracks is a lot better than, even where you are right now. If you're in that lifestyle,
Yeah.
it doesn't, there's no good that comes out of it.
What
None.
is your views, because you understand that energy exchange, right? You understand you are literally, no matter how much money you're getting from it, you're still leaving yourself a piece of yourself in that experience, right? What do you say to girls that are glamorizing sugar daddy lifestyles, or these sugar girlfriend lifestyles where they think that they're getting something by that exchange? What would you say to them? Because they're like, I'm getting a Range Rover, I'm getting a expensive like car, like you don't understand, this is a good deal for me. What would you say to them?
Well, I mean, listen, I'm going to be honest. Like, if I didn't have sugar daddies, like
Right.
back then, I only had maybe two or three like regulars, and they weren't even, sugar daddies. They were complete Daves. But I mean, it's really hard for me to say, because I feel like I'm going against like what I know. I feel like, if you're safe and if you're playing it safe, then, you know take it for what it's worth. But eventually, I feel like the majority of the time you're going to find yourself in a situation where it's going to
Bite you in the ass.
cost you a lot. Yeah, like
I mean, I just look at you, and it's like you were lying, you were cheating, you were running, you were always thinking you're get ahead of the game. You always thought you were running, you thought you were smarter than everybody. right? And you still kept falling down. And now it's like, all right, I'm doing things right. I'm telling the truth. I'm whatever. And now you're almost a 4-time author, a best-selling author, P.S. Best-selling author. You have like, one of your books has like 4,000 reviews on Amazon. Like, that's insanity, okay? Like, I look at the sugar mama, sugar whatever daddy lifestyle, sugar girlfriend lifestyle, and I'm like, again, if you could just use all of that for good, you know what I mean? Like, there's a whole, like, happiness, a total package of a life where you're proud of yourself and you're creating things and you're accomplishing things versus I'm pretty and a guy likes me. There's just like, there's more to life than a guy liking you and buying you things. I think that's my takeaway. It's like, yeah, and I mean, a lot of people are like, "Well, what do you think a wife is?" Or, what do you think being a wife is? Is a staying home wife? I'm like, there's still a different energy exchange. If you buy a house, you have dowry rights. If like, you're creating something, you're creating a business, if you will. I just look at the things that you're accomplishing, your partner, your wife, your kids, being a creator, being an author, being on podcasts, being all these things. Even no matter what, at the end of the day, you lay your head down at night and it's you. It's not what someone finds your value. Like, because if you're a sugar mama or have a sugar daddy, whatever it is, you're running around waiting for someone to find your value. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And eventually, like, I always tell people, like, what would you do if you, and have a daughter, like, and they want to, be in that industry, because that is sex work. That, there's different levels to sex work, OF, sugar mom, sugar babies, and all that stuff. Like, if you have kids and they come to you and say, well, I want to do that, like, what would you tell them?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of them would say, well, I would say, go for it. But it's really doing it, or, saying it and actually being in that situation is two totally different things, and, and I, at the end of the day, I want, better for my kids. And I have said this so many times too, if it wasn't for my kids, then I probably would still be out there, because I love that lifestyle. And that's crazy. Like, I loved it. I loved the people that I, surrounded myself with most of the time. I had more good times than bad, but the bad totally outweighs the good. And, like I said, if it weren't for my kids, I would still be out there. And that's a lot of things. That's what I struggle with, even, in the beginning when I first got, clean and sober and left that life. Like, I got clean and sober first, but I was still doing it. And I didn't stop, the sex work until, I think, April or May of 2019. And
wow.
So
that butted right up against starting TikTok.
I started TikTok, I think, maybe 6 months later.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean,
You were fresh.
It was more difficult for me to stop that lifestyle because I liked it so much. It's very, very much addictive. I loved being able to, wake up, in the morning, if I did go to sleep, and, be able to go out there, make money, and then do what. I didn't have any responsibilities. I didn't have any bills to pay. I was just free and to do whatever I wanted. And the people that I surrounded myself with, were just as crazy as I was. So, like, we always had fun. It was never like a dull moment. It was always something going on. So when I stopped everything and I started living the life that I have now, and it's so peaceful. It's so quiet. Like nothing ever goes on. Like there's no drama in my life whatsoever. So it's hard for me to transition into
The
the life.
silence is deafening, as they say, right? The silence is deafening. So
Yes.
you also went through online in front of all of us some challenges in your marriage.
Mhm.
Um, do you ever post or are you afraid to post? Are you afraid to put yourself out there because you know the judgment's coming? You know it's coming in. You know people are going to be so awful because this is where we are, and 2 million people following you. That's not just a For You page.
Yeah.
That's followers, 2 million people with lots of ideas and lots of opinions. When you go through this, when you're getting off as a box zone, when you're going through a hard time in your marriage, and you're putting it all out there, at least for us, it's a lot, meaning it might not be all, but it's still a lot of your personal life. Do you get nervous? Do you care? Or are you just like, screw it, I'm making a video?
I I say screw it. I'm making a video. I don't really value my supporters. Let me say this: I value my supporters' opinions and their feedback 100%, and they are always loving and always supportive. Like no matter what I do, like I can fall off the wagon today, and they will always, they'll be there. Um, the ones that I don't value are the Reddit rats. Like I couldn't care less what they say. So I feel like it's important to, like I said, I learned my lesson on not sharing everything and just sharing like bits and pieces of my life. But my marriage with my wife, it was rocky. I don't know what it is, maybe because like everything that I've been through in my childhood and sex work and even being on MAT, I did not have a sex drive. My sex
Yeah.
drive, even till this day, is completely gone. I probably could go the rest of my life without any touch, any kiss, any affection, and I would be completely fine. Like and she's the opposite. So you know that's and that and that's why I tell people, all the time, like there's always two sides of every story. Like people were attacking her because of her texting her ex and everything, and yeah, it did hurt me. Like I was really hurt, but I also understood, like unless like you've been in like a situation like this, like I guess you really don't understand, you don't get it. And a lot of people are like, well, she cheated, she did this, she did take it further than just texting, but I still look at it as such, and she knows that. But I can just imagine, like, if the roles were reversed and
Yeah.
it was her and it was me, like how I would feel, and we're still working, through it. And I refuse to give up on a marriage and a relationship that we have literally built from the ground up. Like when we first met, she didn't have anything. I didn't have anything. Like, she relapsed right when she met me, the first day that she met me, because I was, on drugs, and the moment that I got released from prison. So we literally got sober together, and she was with me through relapse after relapse. And she supported me with my crazy idea of quitting my job and just doing social media full time, and then with me with writing my books. And like you don't find somebody like that too often. Like it's always, if I don't have it, she has it. If she doesn't have it, I have it. And never once has she ever thrown anything up in my face.
That's
So
huge.
yeah, and that's why I will do whatever it takes to try to make it work. And it's hard because like, I don't know, maybe it's just a little bit of everything, my trauma, and maybe because I'm old as shit now and I just don't have I don't have a drive, but like, I just refuse to allow anybody to, disrespect her. And I never once came up on here on social media and ever disrespected her, never once thrown her under the bus. Like, I just said what she did, and, it hurt me, and, it still hurts, even till this day, thinking about it. But, we're working through it. And I know that, we'll get to the point to where hopefully, I'll be able to be affectionate. I don't know what's wrong with me. I really don't. So
I had on my other podcast. I have another podcast, Meredith with a Y, and I had on she's like a sex therapist or something like that. And she was talking about how men have sex on the brain. And so theirs starts with the brain, whereas women, because our brains are always thinking of 7,000 things, a lot of times we have to start with the physical, which is so weird. So it's almost like we have to get in our bodies, and men have to do or men can just be have the whole thing here. But women, a lot of times, if they're where you're at, pressure holds and squeezing and coming back into your body. So if we can't get our brain there, we need to get our body there, and then our brain will follow, and then we'll want it. Isn't that crazy? I always thought yeah. And so I was listening to her while she was talking, and I'm that kind of makes a lot of sense. We need to get present first, because we're laundry, video for tomorrow, breakfast, we're here, and we're not in our bodies. We are literally at the grocery store, at our kids' locker, in the basement, at the we're everywhere. And it's no, you have to come back here, and then you have to realize you're here inside of your body. And then once that's kind of a safe space, and you're not over there again, then there can be forwardly motion. So I was telling my husband, I'm that's so crazy. I would have thought, but no. And now that I know that, I'm that makes so much sense. Physical first, and then you'll want it. Mm-hmm. Not want it and then the physical to follow. So try that.
I'll try anything. I always look at that part of my life as a transaction, and that because of, and that's so awful for me to say, but I do. No. And then it just brings back, things that I don't want to, think about. So then I just, shut completely off, and I don't want nobody to touch me. And, it's just, I don't know. It's so awful. I know it is, but
it's not awful. Stop judging yourself, because that judgment is the beginning of a nightmare. It just is. It's not bad. It's not good. It's not wonderful. It's not horrific. It just is. This is where I'm at without any judgment. And now where do I go from there? It is.
It's hard for me to do that though. I'm so hard on myself. So I always, I don't know. I just look at it other people and compare myself. I don't know. It's just hard. So
I get that. Well, you are so beloved by so many people, working on your 4th book. So I will tell you, when I first opened your book, there's not a lot of paragraphs.
Mm-hmm.
It is a stream of thought. And so I opened the book and I was oh shit, what did I just get myself into? I'm reading a book by an ex-hooker drug addict. This is going to be a wild ride. Mm-hmm. This book is sitting down with one of your girlfriends, and you're there for a girl's weekend, and she just unloads on you everything that she's ever done. And you are so enthralled that there's no even reason to speak back, and you might take breaks to eat. That is what this book is. So when you get this book, because it is a read this damn book. When you get her first book, It's My Pussy, I'll Do What I Want. and you go into it, just be like, my girlfriend's, because you're talking like you're talking to your girlfriend. Like that is how you write is how you would speak it. So I don't know if you recorded it or what, but it's exactly like some of the shit that you say. I'm just like, and damn, you have no idea. Like that shit's for real. Like that's exactly how you write it.
Yes, and that's how I wanted all that. That's how all my books are. Like so back in the day they had these urban books. I forget what the heck they were called. Triple Crown Publications. They were here. I don't know if you've ever heard, but they're in Ohio. Like it's authors in Ohio. And I remember when I went to prison for the first time, there was an author that was in prison with. She was a lifer, and she was writing, one of her the Triple Crown publication books. And so she had me, read some of it, and I was like, oh my God, it was like off the wall, and she was like, listen, she's like, I'm just writing whatever the hell comes to my mind. And if, they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. So when I was writing my book, like I literally wrote, first I was writing everything out. Then I ended up going on the Word document, typing everything out. And, that incident brought me back. Like,
this is what I'm talking about. All the things, all the stepping stones brought you to today. That's what I'm saying. So never look at any of your life, any piece of it, as being without, because like, what is the chances you're in prison with an author? That's not possible, Ashley. It's not possible. That shit doesn't happen. So never look at.
She started working with me when we worked at Hilton Hotel. She got released. I think she got released after 18 or 19 years. And I was working as a houseman, and she was working as, I think, like some handyman or something like that. And she was in the break room, and I was sitting there, and she was saying how she just got released from prison, and Hilton Hotels are like a second chance employer. And I'm like, and she told me that she written a book. I was like, I remember you, Keisha Green. I remember who you are. And then it was just
that's kismet. That's universe, sis.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's insane. Well, thank you so much. Get her book. I'm got the first one. Now there's 3 more that I have to go get. They're on Amazon. Like thousands of reviews. They're amazing. This is amazing. Like I said, it's sitting with a girlfriend, and she's just running her mouth telling you everything about everything. It's so fun. I appreciate you. Check her out. It's Trashley Anonymous on TikTok and Instagram, right? It's the same on Instagram.
Yep.
But thank you so much for being with me today. I appreciate you so much for agreeing to be on.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, guys. I will see you here next week with another amazing guest from TikTok Famous. Same time, same sandbox. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the TikTok Famous podcast with Meredith Willits. If you're loving the unfiltered stories and behind-the-scenes truths, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show. Until next time, let's get famous.